looking everywhere, that's how the...
Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone, where love dies last. What happens when the most beautiful woman you've ever met has no heartbeat? Welcome to Dead Heart Seductress, a haunting zombie horror thriller wrapped in romance, desire, betrayal, and a love that refuses to die. In the lush, mysterious forest of Valamir Hollow, a cursed mansion holds a forgotten bride, Lillia Raventhorn, once left at the altar, now undead and unforgettable. She doesn't chase victims, she seduces them. When Dr. Ethan Vale arrives in town, he thinks he's found peace with Isabella, a woman full of life. But Lillia has other plans. Because when she kisses you, your heart doesn't skip a beat, it stops. And that's when the infection begins. Every chapter brings more twisted secrets, seductive danger, and heart-stopping horror. If you love dark love stories, gothic romance, supernatural thrillers, or zombie tales with a seductive twist, this series is made for you. Hit like if Lillia gave you chills. Comment below. Would you choose love, even if it meant death? Don't forget to subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone and tap the bell icon so you're the first to hear the next scream. Because in this zone, the dead don't just walk, they love. Dead Heart Seductress, Zombie Love Story, The Zombie Story Zone, Romantic Horror, Undead Bride, Love Never Dies.
The tales of the undead widely known. Join the hunt, uncover the fight in the zombie story zone. We'll survive the night.
Ethan Hale leaned out of the carriage window as it rumbled along a narrow dirt road winding through emerald green hills and thick groves of ancient oak. Valamir Hollow looked nothing like the buzzing cities he had once known. It was a place stitched together from flowers, fog, and folklore. Wild lilies swayed beside the path. Dragonflies darted in the golden sunlight. Somewhere in the distance, a river sang softly. As the carriage rolled to a stop in front of an ivy-clad inn called the Willow Hearth, Ethan stepped down, boots crunching on gravel. The air tasted sweet, like rain and secrets. A plump woman with laughing eyes hurried forward. "You must be Dr. Hale. I'm Clara, the caretaker of this inn." She brushed her graying hair aside. "Welcome to the Hollow. We don't get new folk often. Supper's at 7. Mind the woods, they whisper at night." Ethan smiled politely, assuming it was a joke, but her expression stayed serious. Inside the inn, a crackling fire chased away the chill. He found himself sharing the place with a handful of other newcomers. There was Leah Winters, a soft-spoken painter with auburn curls and haunted eyes. Marcus Drivon, a broad-shouldered ex-soldier whose scars were both on skin and soul. And 2 glamorous sisters, Isabella and Celeste Ravens, wearing long flowing dresses and amber perfume. They all claimed to be here for peace, but Ethan sensed each one carried secrets they wished to bury. As night fell, they gathered for dinner at a long wooden table. Clara served bowls of hot stew while candles flickered against the walls. "So," Isabella purred, sipping red wine, "what brings you to a forgotten paradise like Valamir, Doctor?" "A new start," Ethan replied. "I plan to open a small clinic here, away from noise and heartbreak." Leah gave a gentle smile. "This place heals everyone, unless you listen to the stories." Marcus grunted. "Ghosts, curses, Walking Dead brides, superstitious nonsense." Clara paused, spoon midway to her lips. "Careful," she whispered. "Some legends are rooted in truth, especially the one about Raventhorn Manor." Ethan looked up. "What's that?" Leah answered softly. "An old mansion deep in the woods. They say a beautiful bride named Lillia Raventhorn died there on her wedding night. Some say she still wanders, waiting for another groom. Any man who sees her falls in love and is never seen again." Everyone laughed nervously, but Ethan felt a strange chill brush the back of his neck. Later, unable to sleep, he stepped outside. Moonlight poured like silver milk across the garden. Fireflies blinked in lazy patterns. From somewhere far beyond the trees, he thought he heard soft humming, like a woman singing a lullaby. Drawn by instinct, Ethan followed the sound down a stone path leading toward the forest edge. Branches swayed though no wind blew. Vines curled like fingers. Then he saw her. A woman in a white bridal gown stood beneath a willow tree, her face hidden by a curtain of dark hair. Her skin glowed pale as moonbone. She lifted her head slowly, and even from a distance, Ethan felt the pull of her beauty strike deep into his chest. He blinked, and she was gone. Heart racing, he stumbled backward toward the safety of the inn. The night returned to silence. But in his mind, he could still hear her voice whispering on the wind. Soon. Unseen among the trees, Lillia watched him leave, her dead lips curling into a smile. Sunlight streamed through the lace curtains of Ethan's room, waking him with gentle warmth. He sat up slowly, unsure if last night had been a dream. The woman in white, the whisper in the wind, it all felt unreal, and yet his heart was still pounding with forbidden excitement. Downstairs, breakfast was being served in the glass-roofed garden room. Roses twined around white pillars and orange blossoms perfumed the air. Leah sat sketching flowers at the table, her cheeks flushed prettily. Isabella and Celeste poured tea like graceful swans, gossiping in low voices. "Morning, doctor," Isabella said with a smile that nearly stopped his breath. "You look flustered. Bad dreams? Or very good ones?" Ethan gave a soft laugh. "I'm not sure." "Come," she said, taking his arm smoothly. "Let's show you the famous Raventhorn Gardens. A man shouldn't work too hard without a little beauty and playfulness." Before he could protest, Isabella, Celeste, and Leah led him through the back gate into a sprawling paradise of fountains, fruit trees, and hanging wisteria. Dragonflies danced over a marble pond while doves cooed in the shade. Ethan relaxed as laughter filled the air. Leah handed him a ripe peach. "Try this," she said, juice glistening on her lips. He bit into it. It was sweet, almost intoxicating. There was something hypnotic about the hollow. Colors looked brighter, scents stronger, smiles softer. At the heart of the gardens stood a quiet stone path that slid into the forest. From there, the air grew cooler, silkier, like invisible fingers caressing his skin. Isabella walked closer, brushing her shoulder against his. "Dr. Hale, have you ever been in love?" she asked playfully. He hesitated. "Once. It ended badly." She pouted, tracing a finger lazily down his arm. "What a waste. A man with a mouth like yours should be kissed often." Celeste laughed and plucked a white lily from a bush, tucking it behind Ethan's ear like a mischievous child. "Now you're one of us," Leah giggled. "Welcome to the circle of beautiful ruin." They continued onward, deeper into green shadows until the silhouette of Raventhorn Manor peeked through the trees. Its white stone walls were wrapped in ivy, windows dark like sleeping eyes. The sight of it made Ethan's heart twist strangely. Isabella licked her lips, voice dropping to a sultry whisper. "They say the mansion is full of secrets and pleasures. Would you dare explore it with me tonight?" Before he could answer, a sudden breeze swirled around them, carrying the faintest scent of roses and decay. The wind twirled Celeste's skirt and sent Leah's sketchbook pages fluttering wildly. Through the rustling leaves, Ethan thought he saw her again, the woman in white, standing far ahead near a willow tree. Her head tilted slightly, almost invitingly, and in that moment, he realized something unsettling. She wasn't looking at him. She was watching Isabella. Ethan blinked, and the vision vanished. Celeste shivered and grabbed his hand. "Let's go back. The woods grow jealous if we stay too long." They returned to the sunlit gardens with bright smiles and rosy cheeks. Yet beneath the laughter, Ethan felt a pulse of danger. This place was seductive, not just in beauty, but in something deeper and darker. Something that crawled beneath the skin. That night, as he lay in bed, another whisper slipped through his window like perfume. "Soon, you will kiss me?" Ethan didn't know whose lips he craved more, Isabella's warm ones, or the icy ones that waited in the moonlit woods. Morning drifted into golden afternoon as Ethan settled into Valamir Hollow. Though the clinic was still being prepared, he found himself with unexpected free time and an unexpected companion. Isabella Ravens had taken it upon herself to give him a proper introduction to pleasure in the countryside. They strolled together through the orchard, sunlight catching on her black hair and glossy red lips. She wore a delicate lace gown that swayed with every step, teasing his senses. "You should smile more," she said, brushing a ripe cherry against his mouth. "It makes you look less like a doctor and more like a man." Ethan chuckled, letting her pop the fruit between his lips. Juice trickled down his chin. Isabella reached out and wiped it with her thumb, slow, lingering, bold. For a heartbeat, their eyes locked. The air between them thickened. "Isabella," he began, voice soft with warning. She only gave a wicked smile. "What? Am I making you nervous?" "A little." "Good, men are most handsome when slightly unsure." They sat beside a bubbling fountain covered in moss. Isabella kicked off her shoes, dipping her feet in the cool water like a carefree child, though the look in her eyes was anything but innocent. "So tell me," she murmured, leaning back on her elbows as sun dappled her décolletage, "why did your last love end badly?" Ethan hesitated, staring at the shimmering pond. "She died," he confessed softly. "A carriage accident. I couldn't save her. Ever since then, I've been afraid to feel too much again." Isabella's expression flickered with surprising tenderness. She shifted closer, pressing a hand to his chest. "Then let your heart feel again. Life is short, and yours beats so beautifully." He didn't resist when she rose on her knees and kissed him. Her lips were warm, tasting of cherries and danger. The kiss deepened, hungry and breathless. Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears as he wrapped his arms around her waist. For a moment, the world felt wildly alive, until a strange chill brushed across his spine. A movement at the forest's edge caught his eye. Between the swaying branches stood a woman in white, hair black as midnight, gown pale as death, watching. Ethan froze, lips still against Isabella's. "Is something wrong?" she whispered, breath hot on his skin. He blinked. The woman was gone. Only leaves rustled harmlessly in the wind. "No," he lied, pulling Isabella in again. But the sweetness of the moment now carried an aftertaste of dread. Later, as they walked back toward the inn hand in hand, Isabella hummed an old love song. Ethan tried to focus on her warmth beside him, but his thoughts kept drifting to the cold-eyed bride he had seen in the trees. That night, as rain began tapping gently against his window panes, Ethan lay awake. His mind replayed Isabella's kiss over and over, quickening his breath. Yet when he finally drifted toward sleep, his pulse slowed under an invisible touch. Somewhere outside, a woman's whisper drifted through the damp air. "Soon you will kiss me instead." Ethan shivered beneath the blankets, caught between the fire of the living and the frost of the dead, unsure which would claim his heart first. The sky had turned velvet black by the time Isabella slipped into Ethan's room. She didn't knock. She didn't speak. She simply appeared, wrapped in a sheer robe, smelling of jasmine and storm water, her dark hair wet from the rain. The candlelight flickered across her face like firelight on fine porcelain. Ethan, still half-dressed and seated at his writing desk, turned slowly to face her. "You'll catch a cold," he murmured, eyes unable to look away. She smiled wickedly. "Then warm me." Before he could say anything more, she crossed the floor with feline grace and curled herself into his lap. Her legs draped over his thighs, her arms wrapped loosely around his neck. "You've been avoiding me," she whispered, brushing her lips against his jaw. "Is it the ghost stories scaring you? Or the living girl in your bed?" "I'm not afraid of ghosts," Ethan whispered back. "But I might be afraid of you." She laughed, a sound like silk tearing. "Good. I'm much more dangerous than a ghost." Their kiss that followed was slower this time, deeper, more searching. Her hands traced over his chest like she was reading a secret map. He touched her back with reverence, unsure whether to worship her or stop her. "I shouldn't be doing this," he whispered against her collarbone. "But you are," she replied, breathless, tugging him to the bed. Rain fell harder against the windows as they tangled in passion, the room filling with heat and shadows. Outside, a figure watched silently through the trees. Lillia. She stood barefoot in the wet grass, her long white gown clinging to her body, dark hair matted to her face. Her eyes glowed softly in the stormlight, watching, waiting, unblinking. Inside, Isabella whispered into Ethan's ear, "Say my name." He obeyed. "Say it again." "Isabella." She smiled and pressed her lips against his pulse. But the moment she kissed the hollow of his throat, he flinched. A cold ripple passed through him. Not from her, but from something else. A presence. The window creaked open slightly. Wind slithered inside. The candle flickered violently. Isabella sat up, staring at the window. "Did you feel that?" Ethan nodded, skin clammy. Like something just walked over my grave." She rubbed her arms. "You keep dreaming about her, don't you?" He stared at her. "What do you mean?" Isabella's voice was quiet now. "The woman in the woods, in the white dress. You've seen her." Ethan didn't answer. She leaned forward and cupped his face. "If you let her in, you'll lose yourself. She doesn't want your love. She wants your heartbeat." He stared into her eyes, his own heart hammering. "How do you know that?" But Isabella didn't answer. She kissed him once more, slow, hungry, desperate, and slipped from the bed just before dawn, vanishing into the rain like a dream fading with the morning light. Ethan sat in silence, unable to sleep. Somewhere in the forest beneath the dripping trees, Lillia whispered his name again. Soon, your lips will forget hers. And for the first time, he wondered if he truly wanted to resist. The rain passed by morning, leaving Valamir Hollow washed and glistening. Mist clung to the gardens like lace, and dew sparkled on every leaf. But there was something heavier in the air, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. Ethan stepped into the breakfast hall, surprised to see 3 new guests seated at the long table. Clara, the innkeeper, wore an unusually tight-lipped smile. "More wanderers drawn to the hollow," she said softly. "It seems the woods are calling again." The newcomers looked anything but ordinary. Vivienne Vale was a tall, exotic beauty with long, dark braids and piercing gray eyes. Her fitted traveling coat hinted at a dancer's figure beneath. She was elegance wrapped in mystery. Beside her was Iris Bloom, a strawberry blonde woman with porcelain skin, dressed in floral silk and red heels. Her laugh was high and musical, but her eyes were sharp, too sharp. And sitting quietly at the end of the table was Seraphina Dusk, a quiet, bookish beauty with deep brown curls and violet eyes, lost in a leather journal. She radiated intelligence and secrets. But the men weren't far behind. Julius Vale, Vivienne's charming brother, wore an open shirt and an easy smile. He winked at Isabella before sitting down. Damian Cross, tall and brooding with a jagged scar across his jaw, joined Marcus with a silent nod. A former soldier too, perhaps. And finally, Lucian Thorne, lean and pale, arrived late, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses even indoors. He smelled faintly of old roses. As the group exchanged greetings, flirtation bloomed like wildflowers. Julius turned his attention to Isabella almost immediately, making Ethan clench his jaw with quiet jealousy. Vivienne, graceful and poised, took a seat beside Ethan. "So you're the doctor," she purred. "I like a man who heals, but bleeds." Ethan flushed. Seraphina gave him a sweet glance. "Don't let Vivienne scare you. She just likes to taste people's boundaries." "Just boundaries?" Iris laughed, leaning forward. "Speak for yourself." Laughter filled the hall, but beneath it was a quiet tension, as if none of them had truly come for vacation, as if something had summoned them all. Later that day, Clara hosted a picnic by the riverside. The women wore flowing dresses, the men brought wine, and flirtations danced as freely as the butterflies. Ethan found himself drawn to Vivienne's boldness, Seraphina's soft intelligence, and Isabella's jealous glances. But beneath the laughter, something dark began to stir. During a playful game of hide-and-seek, Marcus found Celeste, half naked and trembling, standing ankle-deep in the river, whispering nonsense to the trees. "Celeste?" he said, stepping closer. "Are you all right?" She turned slowly. Her eyes were glowing faintly blue. Her voice sounded wrong. "He's coming. He's already here." Before he could speak again, she collapsed in his arms. That night, Ethan sat with Isabella under the stars. She leaned on his shoulder, but he felt distant. "You're pulling away from me," she said. "I'm confused," he admitted. "Don't be," she said, taking his hand. "Love is simple. It's just choosing someone before something else chooses you." He kissed her gently, but in his heart, he felt watched. From the forest, from the shadows, from the place where Lillia waited. And somewhere, deep beneath Raventhorn Manor, something stirred awake for the first time in decades. To be continued. Just when you thought the nightmare had peaked, the real terror is only beginning. Will Ethan survive the grip of the seductresses, or has his heart already stopped beating forever? Secrets are still buried in the soil of the haunted estate. Passions are burning hotter, and the infection is spreading. The next chapter will unleash new horrors, darker romance, and unexpected betrayals that will change everything. Everything. Open quote, "What would you do if love came with a death sentence?" Comment below your theories, your favorite character so far, and what you think will happen next. Close quote. Make sure to like if you felt the thrill. Subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone to catch the next chilling chapter. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next seductive scream. Stay tuned, lovers of the dead, because the next heartbeat you hear might not be yours.
Never grows old. Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone, where the tales of the undead are widely known. Join the hunt, uncover the fight in the zombie